welcome to What Happens in This House Stays in This House, Strength Over Silence podcast. I am your host, Tammy Montgomery Dozier. Thanks again for listening. I am very excited about this week's podcast. I have a very special guest, Pastor Nitta Brady. Say hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on here. Thank you. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
Well, I am one of those people that do a lot of many things. I'm multi-talented, as I would say.
Yes.
But a couple of things about me. I'm a pastor in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The name of the ministry is Living Witness Church of Praise. I'm also a business owner.
Okay.
I'm a real estate broker, and the name of my business is First Success Realty. And also, I do work a full-time job. I'm married. I have 5 children, 4 boys and 1 girl. They're all adults. And I have 9 grandchildren. So, as you can see, I'm one of those people that have an entrepreneur mindset. And I'm also an author. Don't want to forget that part. I'm also an author.
Wow, you don't look like you should have that many kids and grandkids. I'm telling you, you really look good. Very good.
Thank you.
So I do know that you're in the ministry. So how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been in ministry for about 25 years.
Wow, okay.
I have been a pastor for 5 years.
Now, is that something that you always knew? Always knew that there was a calling on your life? Or was it something that you ran from, or it was just something that you just immediately gravitated to?
I always knew there was a special calling, but I was not sure exactly what it was. In my younger life, I knew that I was different. I knew it was a work that I needed to do, but because I was not mature yet spiritually to understand.
Okay.
And when I became, as I grew in the Lord and as I start to be taught, then God started dealing with me a little bit more profoundly. And then that's when I was like, hold on.
Okay.
I started hearing the voice of God, and I started seeing how he was dealing with me and how he just started maturing me. And so I knew, like, more or less in my early 20s, I knew when I was approximately about 13 or 14, I knew I had a calling into ministry, but you don't really understand what that means. At least I didn't. But then when I got to be in my 20s, I knew that it was more of a call to actually do ministry and to preach the gospel.
Let me ask you this. So did you just wake up one day and say, okay, this is it, Pastor Nitta, I'm here. You know what, Reverend Nitta, Minister Nitta, this is what I'm going to do. So is that how it happened? Or you just gradually got into it?
I gradually got into it when I was approximately about 20, I said about 22, 23, started feeling God more or less dealing with me more. And then when I really got stable in the church, I got stable. And I'll say around about middle 25, 24, 25, I was on a teaching where they encourage you to be a part of different type of ministry groups. They encourage you to seek God for direction because I didn't understand what I was feeling. I knew that God was speaking to me, but I didn't understand what he was speaking to me to do. So I just started to get groomed. I became a missionary in the church. Okay. I started ushering. I started singing in the choir just so that I can understand the gifts that was open to me in the church. And as I started being more active into the church, then that's when I started understanding that God has a greater work for me. So as I progressed, I became a minister. So I would preach, more or less like on youth services. I would teach Sunday school. I would teach the young kids, and that's where my joy was. And as I elevated in the church, God allowed me to become a minister, and I became an evangelist. So I started doing more in ministry and I got more confidence. So I think my knowledge in the word of God had to grow. Okay. And I had to be taught. And so with all that teaching that was put in me, different things like that, of course, they teach you and you have to take this minister's test. And I'm like, I was one of those people where I never could see myself out front doing that. I was more or less that person that was I was good just clapping my hands and saying, right. go ahead. But I didn't understand. Just being a minister was one thing, but I never saw myself being pushed to where I am now. I didn't see it, but I guess it wasn't for me to see because sometimes when we see things, we probably would try to go the other ways. But
that is definitely true. Yes.
Yeah. But I'm thankful because I knew that God had more for me. I just didn't know how far he was going to take me. So as I progressed from being a minister, I became an evangelist. And then with an evangelist, I'm still under another ministry. It's just that the pastor, is allowing me to preach on Sundays, preach on different different things. I preach at different churches. So I was being utilized more in the ministry. Once I was under the leadership, my previous leadership, I knew that God was dealing with me. I would have visions. I would have dreams. I would wake up and I would literally, and then he's like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "God is dealing with me." It was just really deep. It was a very deep transition because it was something I did run from. So since you did say that, sometimes people think that people are just jumping around saying, "Ooh, yeah, I want to be a pastor." I don't think the majority of the people I know, I don't think that's their testimony. But and it's not that you don't want to do it. It's just that the fear of the unknown, the fear of what people are going to think, especially by you being a woman, the fear of judgment. Who does she think she is? But I'm thankful I've gotten over that. I'm just saying that was some of I was allowing, what I thought other people was going to think as opposed to what God had called me to do, to just put this kind of stagnant in me. But I got out of it real quick. I got out of it real quick because I knew what God was telling me to do. So it's been 5 years now, and I had already had the name of the church.
Okay.
All these things was already in place before I had even stepped out and we moved into our building.
So my question for you now then, so with everything that's going on in the church and, we have the pandemic and just everything, do you think that from when you first started in the church, do you think that we're heading in the right direction, or do you think that we are losing people? Like Kanye West, a lot of people don't like that he's doing it, but he's reaching people that some people, are not reaching. Do you think that people are not as into church as they used to be? Like when, our grandparents was coming up, we had to go to church. I know I went away to college and my grandmother made me go to church every Sunday. But now it's not like that. What do you think it is?
I think that with the way the times are right now, people are a little bit more, they're different than they used to be, just in general, people. Yes, with the pandemic, I think that it's a little bit more challenging, but I tell people all the time that there are some people who wasn't going to church before the pandemic.
That's true.
And so they're using the pandemic as an excuse, but of course it is a little bit more challenging, but at the same time, I believe that God is going to make sure that the people get what they need, whether we got to get it on social media, whether we got to get it via Facebook, whether we got to get it whether through podcasts or conference call. There's always going to be a way for people, if they want the word of God, they're going to make a way to get the word of God. If they got to get it through a song or YouTube, there's so many methods to share the gospel, that I think that, yes, it may be a little bit more challenging, but at the same time, if a person want to hear the word, there's so many different methods. They find a way to do everything else. Yeah, it may be challenging, and it is true that so many people may have maybe drifted off, but the Bible also tells us that things like this going to happen in the last days, and it's going to be a great falling away. But sometimes people are doing this because of excuses. And then some people are getting discouraged. They are getting discouraged because we wish they could be, but some people are very visual. Some people have to be in a church building. Some people got to be there to see their leader. They have to be around people that, so when they don't have that, and then they get attacked, they don't feel like they have that family anymore. So it's very important right now for the people of God to say they are Christians, or we need to stick together during this time. It's not the time to separate. So it is challenging. I have seen a difference, but I try to be positive as I can. And I try to encourage people because I know, like the word says, God will not put no more on us than we can bear. It's just another transition that we have to adapt to. And I believe eventually, things are, I'm not going to say normal, but things they're going to work out the way they were meant to work out.
And I love what you said, because 10 years ago, we didn't have like the Zoom platform and YouTube wasn't as popular and all the things. So you have more access to, and look at church and different things like that. So it's a beautiful thing. Because I know sometimes after I'm finished with my service on Sundays, I might go to somebody else's service.
Exactly.
And you get to see other people. So, and I do totally agree. Now, Pastor Nitta, let's talk about the author in you. So I know you have several books out. Please give us their names.
Okay, so the first book is Raised by a Child.
Okay.
And that book is kind of personal. And you know how some people say, that's my baby type thing. I think that book, it was kind of like a part of me. And the reason why I say that is because some of it is a lot about my life and my experiences. And it was inspired by my life growing up without my mother. I was 5 years old. My mother passed away, and our oldest sister was 18. And there was 8 of us all together. So my sister was 18 and she had a child of her own. She was young too. And my mother was 36 when she passed away. So at 36 years old, she had 8 kids, and her oldest was 18 and her youngest was 2. So I was 5, my brother was 2, and then my 18-year-old sister had a 2-year-old.
Okay.
And so everyone else was in between. But my 18-year-old sister kept all us together as a family. When I wrote the book, Raised by a Child, I thought that the topic was very catchy because basically I was being raised by a child. Not only was I raised by a child, but a child was raising a child. I just wanted to write that book because it was so many things that I went through as a child that I didn't understand, that I probably didn't even appreciate. And now that I have my own children, now that I have grown into a woman, I can look at the struggles and the things that I went through, and I can say, wow, at 18, I don't know how many 18-year-olds in this day and time would be not only be able, but be willing to even do it.
So when I was going through your book, going through that through Raised by a Child, I love how you told it, and you told it from like a child's perspective. Everything that you were feeling right then in that moment, that is how you told it. And you talked about how you were shy in school and how you were being bullied in school. But one thing I did love, I love how you talked about when you came home, there was nothing but love and laughter there.
Yeah.
I love that. So with that situation, did you implement any of those things that, although your sister was 18, into your family?
Yes. So I have my kids. My oldest son, I had him when I was young. I was 17 when I had my first child. Because of the way I was raised and because of the maturity level, I had to learn real a lot. So I was taught how to cook. I knew everything. I knew how to clean a house. I knew how to cook. I knew how to clean. I knew how to babysit kids. I knew how to comb hair. You name it. I just was raised to learn how to do a lot of things at a young age. So when I had my son, and even as I had my other children, I knew how to do things. So I taught them how to do things. We played a lot. We laughed. Even my grandkids, we talk about it now. They're all adults. They'll be like, me and I used to ride them on my back, just, do funny things that we used to do. Even though we used to get in trouble as a kid, of course, my sister, she was younger, and we would be upstairs and we'll be playing and we'd be bumping. I know we was making a lot of noise, but we had. So we would take the risk of getting in trouble,
Right.
play at 2:00 in the morning, knowing we need to be, but we'll be up, as they used to say back in the day, cracking jokes. Okay. So we'll sit there, we'll crack jokes and we'll be laughing. We'll be falling out on the floor laughing and just being goofy, being silly. But those times is what kind of kept me. And so when I went through a lot of different trials as we go through, growing up, my kids was like my strength. And so whenever we would do something, I'll teach them, it's good to laugh, love on your siblings, have fun with your siblings and things like that. I didn't allow them to call each other names. That was name calling was not something in my house. We didn't do that. You could not call your sister fat. Certain things that I learned just from growing up, going to school and experiencing some of those things, and even in the home, my children, they respect me for that. But it's because of what I learned just from being around my siblings, the closeness. And my kids are very close right to this day. They know, oh, mama don't play that. Because I'm thankful because my kids have me. And even for me to grow up without my mother, a lot of people wouldn't know that until I tell them. They're surprised,
Now, speaking of that, so I'm going to segue into your next book, Meek, Not Weak. Mm-hmm. So in your book, Raised by a Child, you spoke about every time somebody would ask you, where's your mom? You would either start crying or you would start giving people the story before they would even ask you sometime. Mm-hmm. So do you think that part of that made people believe that you were shy and go into your Meek, Not Weak? Let's transition over into that. Because meeting you, you seem like very you laid back and kind of shy, but we all know that that's not you. We all know the other side. We all know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk about your meek, not weak. And I want to know if that part of that brought that meekness or that shyness of growing up in a big household as well. If that brought that meek, not weak, or you being shy, people thinking that
Yeah. I think that one of the things is I was the youngest girl. And everybody always, I think I mentioned that in the book, everybody always looked at me as, that's the baby girl. They always treated me like, and maybe because they were trying to protect me, they were so protective of me. And I was the one that was always like, honestly, I didn't used to say much, but it was because I didn't know who I was. I don't think I knew who I was. I was confused. I believe I was just a confused little girl. I was just going along with, okay. I didn't used to express myself. If I was unhappy about something, very rarely I would say something. I would just be quiet about it. I wouldn't speak up. I dealt with a lot of insecurities because I don't know if people can relate, but I grew up in a time where light skinned was in, so
yeah, true.
Light skinned was in my days. And I mean, people didn't really say anything. They never said anything to me about my complexion, but I just knew light skinned was in. Having nice wavy hair was in.
That's true.
And girls that was curvy was in. I was not that curvy girl, okay? I was very slim. I was very short. And my self-esteem was very low. And I didn't know what that even meant. But now that I look back, I just think that a lot of things is important to teach your children. When they're young, teach them that they're beautiful. Tell them they're beautiful. Make them feel good about themselves. Not saying that, that wasn't something that was incorporated. I think that when you grow up without a house that don't look like everybody else, like you go over somebody else's house and you think what you got at home is normal. And I mentioned in the book, you go over their house, you're like, wait a minute, y'all got sweet cereal and everything,
Yeah. Right.
You thinking that, because that's all you know. But I didn't understand a lot of stuff because I think that when people used to ask me stuff like, they'll say in school, yo mama, it's like as a kid, am I supposed to cry? So you do what people expect you to do, Am I supposed to cry? And then you don't even have a memory. I mean, I have flashbacks of my mom, but I don't really remember the stuff that people remember about their mother, and then until certain situations, and then you feel like, man, I'm missing something. Who am I? What do I want out of life? I never addressed those type of things. I just sat back and I wouldn't say anything. And I used to hold my head down. No one ever told me to keep your head up, keep your chin up.
So when did you have your awakening? When was your awakening when you realized, you know what, I don't have to put up with this. This is who I am. I am Pastor Nitta. This is who I am. So no, I don't have to answer. I don't have to do all of that. When was that defining moment?
That I'm Pastor Nitta, or that I believe in myself?
You believed in yourself.
I think I learned a lot of it when I was very confident when I became, when you think you're grown.
Yeah.
I was good in my first part of my adolescence. I think I was doing pretty good. I was doing things I enjoyed doing. I was like active in sports and in high school. I was good, but I still was that quiet person. But I always just used to look at people. I couldn't blend in with everyone. And I think that was a part of the separation that God had. I didn't understand it. I just couldn't. I couldn't click with everybody. I couldn't do the things other people did, which I didn't even have a desire to do them anyway, but people just did not gravitate towards me. I just was not that person. They'll speak to me and I say, oh, she's nice. Oh, but they'll always think, oh, she quiet. That's because I'm looking at y'all like, y'all, sure. But people would perceive that as being, which was fine with me because sometimes people didn't want to, they didn't really mess with me because they used to look at me like they didn't know how to take me. A lot of times I would be perceived as quiet because I wouldn't say nothing to a person that didn't say nothing to me.
Okay.
But over time, I think I got more, as I grew more, I think in ministry, I think that really helped shape, my personality because I was pushed out there. I'm one of the people that, not that I have a lot in me, but if I don't know it's okay to let it come out, unfortunately, my gift would sit there, but that don't happen anymore. But my gift would sit there, and I have all these brilliant ideas and all these things. And I think that when I had my last child, my last two kids, I think that a lot of things in me was awakening. You know, when I got like 26 years, I think when I got like 26 years old, I got to the point where I was like, wait a minute, hold on, stop right here. It's like so many things in my life had changed because I think my mind had really developed into a woman. And I think that for something about a woman, she get like in her mid-20s, that some type of light bulb go off. You know, they said that we change every 10 years or so. So maybe when I got like up in my mid-20s, I just kind of like a light bulb came on. I just took off. It was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. You know, I found myself going back to school. I found myself doing more things. I got my real estate license. You know, I got my broker license. I did a lot of things. I started really growing in ministry. So I'm going to say when I got about my mid-20s, I just kind of like, my light bulb just kept on. It started blinking and it just stayed on. So,
All right. So let's talk about this. You did mention that you have 5 kids, 4 boys and 1 girl.
mm-hmm.
And so with everything that's going on now, and you see all these killings, these senseless killings of all these young men out here in the world, what is your fear? Or is there something that you talk to your boys about? That you have that quote unquote talk that
Mm-hmm.
most parents have with their children? Well, boys, rather.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I didn't have that talk with my kids like that. Not that I don't think the talk is important. I think that one of the reasons is because I didn't have to per se, because my kids, thankfully, they know, because when we see things like that happen, will I would say what I'll say to them, and they're like, "Yeah, mom, I know." So they already know. They're pretty smart. They're bright kids and things like that. I'm thankful they're not doing things that they're in the streets, which I'm not saying everybody is that this is happening to. It's really sad that we as people, Black people, have to worry about that. You know, that a mother have to worry about that. And I'm not saying, there are times, you know, when I hear this crazy stuff, I'll call and ask my boys, you know, where you at? And usually they're at home, but it's sad. Every woman that has boys, Black sons, I'm sure you have that fear. You have that concern because they can get pulled over just for having the tail light out and not knowing their tail light is out. You know, it doesn't mean they're doing anything. Doesn't mean they're out here in the street. Doesn't mean they're on the corner. Doesn't mean they're selling drugs. You know, doesn't mean they're carrying guns. That's not the kind of young men that I raised. All my children was raised in church. They weren't raised in the streets. They not thugs. People think that sometimes just because you have sons that they all thugs, all their pants are hanging down to their knees. They're walking around with blunts in their mouth and they doing this. They beating up their women. They don't work. They don't have jobs. That's not true. That's not true.
And a lot of those guys that this has happened to, they've been upstanding, you know, just out there, fathers and different things like that. Like this last thing that happened in Milwaukee. How did that affect you? There was a lot going on.
Yeah. It's really sad. You kind of have like in Milwaukee, you have like mixed opinions about things. Have some people that feel one way, you have some people that feel another way. The whole riot itself is really sad because at the end of the day, you have a mother, you know, that has lost her child. It doesn't matter if it's justified or not, what the reason was. She's without her son. I feel, you know, and this whole thing with all these, to me, it's just a big mess because we know that we need law and order to keep things together, but we don't need the corruptness. The law has to be just for everybody.
Yes.
Nobody should feel like if I get pulled over, am I going to leave? Or if I'm walking down the street and am I going to get shot because of the color of my skin?
Yes.
You know, that type of stuff, that bothers me because you shouldn't. And even though the cop that was involved in this last one with the young man, he was a Black cop. But either way it goes, I think that if someone is breaking the law, you know, there's punishment for people breaking the law, but no one deserves to be shot down like a dog.
Oh, this is another one. I was talking about the young man that got paralyzed.
Oh, him. Okay.
Yeah, the one that got shot the 7 times in the back, and he ended up being paralyzed. I didn't know there was another one. Okay.
Yeah, it was a recent one, but it was a Black cop in Wauwatosa that actually, it was a Black cop that shot a young man that was leaving the mall, and they were saying that the young man had a gun. You can hear the audio where he was saying, put the gun down, put the gun down. In that case, I felt for both people because he was talking to the young man, asking to put the gun down from what I heard. And then they say, I don't know, that the young man didn't put the gun down. He pointed the gun at the officer. The officer shot him. And it was sad because he was a young kid. And that mother, now they were protesting about that, but the cop was Black. He was justified and said that they felt that it was things were done correctly. Yeah. So everyone is still, in an uproar because this was another young kid. I'm like, oh my God, how does the police do their job? And how does people, it's just a big mess. And even with the other one that was in Kenosha, that was really sad because he got shot in his back 7 times. And now it's like all the protesting and the riots. Sometimes, you can hear them outside. I just didn't go out a lot of times, at night, even, being in quarantine, but a lot of times you just don't go out because you don't know if the streets was, they have it like even on social media, if the streets get backed up, people protesting, they're blowing horns and stuff like that. And from what I understand, it's peaceful protesting.
That's good.
But at the same time, it does affect your city, and it affect, your kids, because it makes them wonder, is that going to be me? Is that going to be me? Even if they're not doing anything,
yes.
It's just one of those things where I think communication is so important. And I always do. I tell and I have told my kids, look, if you ever get pulled over, I never said I had to talk with them like that, but we did talk about, when something happened, they'll say, hey, Mom, did you see this? Or I'll say, hey, did y'all see that? And, and they'll say, yeah, he said, that's bad. And I said, well, y'all already know, if you ever get pulled over, don't reach for your, it's a shame, don't reach for your wallet. Yeah. Don't look in your glove compartment for your title. Just don't. And just they were like, oh, yeah, just sit there. Don't move, because some people, they trigger happy just because you're Black. I mean, we need to just be honest. And it's sad. I mean, it don't sound good, but I got to be realistic about that. And then there's some people who do be breaking the law. And I'm not saying that anyone deserves to be shot down or killed. I'm not saying that, but It's just that the law is the law. If people are endangering someone or whatever, then the police, you got to do what they got to do to make sure that they keep things in order. But I feel that at any time, and it's just me, at any time, are you going to avoid killing somebody?
Do
shoot them in the leg. Shoot them in. I'm just saying.
Right, I understand.
Why you got to shoot them down like a dog? I don't care if you're green, orange, purple, blue, but why you got to shoot a person down like a dog? That part there is what concerns me. And I think that's the hardest thing, a mother, is to know that your child got shot down. And thank God that he's paralyzed and didn't kill him. But it seemed like they were trying to kill him.
Yeah.
Because the average person that gets shot 7 times don't. It was by the grace of God that he's alive.
Yes, definitely. So question now is, so with everything going on, and I like to focus on mental health a lot of times, do you find yourself with your congregation and everything that, mentally that this pandemic is getting to them, or do you have to counsel a lot more, or how is it going with that within your congregation?
Within the congregation, a lot of our congregation is kind of older people. We do have some younger ones that's in there, but everyone pretty much, they're pretty good. They do pretty well. One of the things is we don't have a lot of night services. Well, we don't have any night services. We only have the services during the day now. Even though we're practicing social distancing, we don't have any night services. If we do, we might have just come together as a group, maybe about 4 or 5 of us, but we have not resumed our night services because I don't want to have anyone out at night. Mm-hmm. And especially with all the protests and the riots, I just don't want to. So it has affected in that aspect. But at the same time, we got Zoom and we got WebEx and we got conference calls. We got other methods. Yeah. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Pastor Nitta, thank you for being on my show. So tell us this. What are some of your upcoming projects? Because I know you have some, because you're always working on something. So what are you doing now? What's next?
One of the things I am so thankful for is to just be a part of SPA, Speakers, Publishers, and Authors Association. Mm-hmm. Is there's never a dull moment to just do more. And I'm thankful for that. So I have 2 things actually that I want to do. And one of them is like a children's book.
Okay, cool.
I'm trying to be more versatile, so like a children's book. And then I have like a lot of poems and quotes. So I'm done with that project. I just have to come up with a title and get it together.
Okay.
Because it's an inspirational book with quotes and poems. They're my own quotes now, so they're
okay. I'm sure they're good.
Yeah.
All right,
yeah, but
okay.
yep. So
Well, if
that's what
that's what you're working on.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody's interested in purchasing anything or trying to get in contact with you, how would they do that? How would they reach you?
Well, I have my email.
Okay.
And it is Nitta Bradby at gmail.com. So that's
Okay.
Yep, it's NITTABRADBY at gmail.com. And I am also on Facebook as Nitta Bradby as well.
All right. That is good. So my last question, I ask everybody this question.
Mm-hmm.
When it's all said and done, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Wow. The legacy I want to leave behind would be that you can do anything that you put your mind to. You can be and do whatever you put your mind to do. I just want to teach people not to give up on your dreams. And that's what I'm going to keep on doing. I'm sure that if we ever have another interview, I'm going to have another project under my belt. There's always something in the works,
So remember, you are saying this out loud. So a certain somebody probably will hear this. So you will
There's
be
always something in the works. Yes, I will. Yeah, but yes. I'm very thankful. Tam, I have some very, very supportive people in my corner, and you don't realize how big the world is until you come out of your shell.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I can relate.
Yep, you can, can't you?
All right. Well, I want to thank you again for being on my show. I truly appreciate it. It's been a pleasure. All right. So thank you guys for listening to What Happens in This House Stays in This House, Strength Over Silence podcast. I have been your host, Tammy Montgomery Dozier. I can be reached at 773-251-5537 or my website, www.connectedbyloveconsulting.net to purchase my books, Addicted to Pain on Amazon or Fast to Freedom on Amazon as well. Thank you guys and enjoy your week.